Very last jobs report of 2014, this was good news. It wrapped up the best year for jobs growth in 15 years. So first to the part where we talk about lots to cheer about in December, including another strong gain north of 200,000 of jobs. It actually ended up being 252,000. Expectation was just about 240,000. That's the lowest unemployment rate since June of 2008. Equally bullish were a couple of upward revisions for November and October. But the red flags are still in place. Most disconcerting, stagnant wage growth. In fact, it actually contracted 0.2%, but also on the worry radar is the labor force participation rate sliding to new lows. It's been bad, but this is a new low not seen in nearly 37 years. And of course, the so-called skills gap in the U.S. persistently weighing down the recovery. So which way will this labor market scale tip as we kick off a brand new year? Who better to ask than U.S. Labor Secretary Tom Perez? He's joining us now live from Washington. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
It's always great to be with you, Liz. Happy New Year to you and all your listeners.
And to you, too. And to you, too, sir. We had solid numbers strung together, but oddly, the wages looked a little more stagnant than anybody had hoped. Why are we seeing job growth, which I guess intuitively you would think if people are hiring more, 252,000, we would have seen wages tick up a bit. What is going on there?
Well, I think it's important not only to look at last month, but to look at last year, because that gives us the trend data. And as you correctly point out, last year was the best year we've had since 1999. We see 3 million jobs created last year. We see an economy where the growth is broadly based. Construction had a great month last year and a very good year. The average person on an assembly line is working 42 hours a week. The job growth that was best was in business and professional services, which are, by and large, very, very well-paying jobs. So we're seeing that prosperity. And when you look at the remarkable drop in the unemployment rate, we haven't had a drop in the rate in 1 year like this since 10, 20 years. And what's helpful to know for your listeners is that the unemployment rate went down precipitously primarily because more unemployed people found work. Well, that's really important. Well, but you're correct, though, Liz, that the unfinished business you've put your finger on, as you always do, which is we need to make sure we have shared prosperity, and we need to make sure that there's too many people who are working hard and haven't gotten a raise in years.
Oh, exactly.
We had the wage issue from last month. You're correct. The month before was a very good month. Last year, overall, we had slight real wage growth, but slight real wage growth is not enough.
Right, we need to see a bit more.
We need to do better.
Mr. Secretary, wait, let me jump in because you brought up two things and I'm thinking, which one do I go with? Construction numbers, very good. I'll talk about housing in just a minute, if you can deduce any positive moves about the housing market from that. But first, you also mentioned full-time workers. Well, you said 40-hour work weeks or plus. Obamacare, the full-time definition of 40-hour minimum, the House approved that definition versus a 30-hour minimum. This matters when it comes to people and companies providing health care. My question to you, in your opinion, will the bill that defines full-time as 40 hours a work week, does that bother you? I've always thought 40 hours was full-time, but does it bother you? Because it doesn't seem that the president wants to go in that direction.
Well, we've had a lot of conversations, and I've heard the opponents of the Affordable Care Act say the Affordable Care Act is a job killer. Well, we now have a few years of experience, and we've just had our 58th consecutive month of private sector job growth. Folks have looked at the Affordable Care Act and its impact on job creation, and we've seen that despite the protestations of the folks who oppose the Affordable Care Act is not a job killer, quite the contrary. And I would love to sit down. There are a number of things that we'd love to improve about the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, and yet the problem is most of the opponents, what they really want to do is just repeal it. And now we've had 10 million folks who've gotten access to health coverage, including many folks that I've met. And one guy in Tennessee who got his coverage on March 1st had his liver transplant 2 weeks later. It's changed his life. And so, when I hear the Affordable Care Act's a job killer, just because you say something, 20, 30 times, as some have said, doesn't make it true.
And indeed,
the facts kind of bear it out.
As we talk about this last year, strongest job growth in 15 years, those are the statistics. Quickly on Keystone, the pipeline, of course, the House approved it once again today. It's created about 40,000 jobs just for the construction. In the end, it would have about, I guess, 50 jobs to operate. But why does it make sense to fight Keystone on behalf of the way that the administration looks at it?
Well, it's interesting. My understanding is that the direct construction jobs that are created are something like 4,000. To put that in context, last month there were 48,000 construction jobs created. So when we talk about the job boom that's going to result from the Keystone pipeline, I've taken a close look at that as the labor secretary, and I haven't exactly seen a job boom. When 1 month we've got 12 times more jobs created in this sector than the entire project. It's not exactly a job boom. And the president's been clear about the process and the executive authority and things of that nature. And so, we're going to continue to move forward with our efforts to continue to grow the economy and create jobs. That's the conversation we're having. And 2014 was a great year for job creation. I think the keys to creating jobs in 2015 are things like, transportation infrastructure, which would create oodles of jobs.
Yeah. Well, let's see if
the minimum
we can,
wage, you do this.
We'll see if we can fix our bridges. we know we need that. Secretary, we must go. I apologize, but with all the breaking news,
No, I totally
you.
appreciate that.
Thank
My prayers
you so
are
much.
with the people of France.